Hello and welcome to English in Advance, the place where we help you build not just your vocabulary, but your confidence and your future. I'm your host, Jessica, and I am so glad you've decided to spend some time with me today. We often talk about grammar rules, new words, and pronunciation tips, and all of that is incredibly important. But today we are going to talk about something deeper, something that sits right at the very heart of success, not just in learning English, but in every single part of your life. We're talking about the small, almost invisible habits that secretly shape who you are and who you will become. Have you ever felt that frustrating feeling of being stuck? You set a big, exciting goal for yourself. Maybe it's to become fluent in English, to get in shape, or to start a new project. You feel a surge of motivation, you're full of energy, and for a few days, or maybe even a few weeks, you work incredibly hard. But then, life gets in the way. Motivation fades. The initial excitement disappears, and that big, beautiful goal starts to feel like a heavy weight. You miss one day of practice, then another, and soon enough, you're right back where you started, feeling disappointed in yourself. If this sounds familiar, I want you to know that you are not alone. This is a universal human experience. But what if I told you there was a better way? A path that doesn't rely on short-lived motivation, but instead builds something much stronger. Something permanent. Today we're going to explore the powerful ideas from a truly life-changing book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Now this isn't going to be a simple book review. We are going to dive deep into its core principles and transform them into a practical guide that you can use, starting today, to make real, lasting changes in your life. This book's genius is in its simplicity. It's not about grand theories or impossible dreams. It's about real, tangible actions you can take every single day. It teaches us how the tiniest actions, when repeated consistently, can grow into massive, life-altering results. By the end of our time together today, you will understand with absolute clarity why your small, daily habits are infinitely more powerful than your big, ambitious goals. You'll learn the 4 simple, unforgettable rules for building good habits that stick, and for finally breaking the bad ones that have been holding you back. And please remember, this podcast is about so much more than just improving your English listening skills. It's about building the discipline, the confidence, and the kind of life you truly want to live. And we'll do it all using clear, simple English that you can easily understand and learn from. There's a powerful quote that captures the essence of what we'll discuss. It says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." So let's get ready to learn how to build better systems together. Let's begin. To truly understand the power of small habits, I want you to imagine a master sculptor. She stands before a giant, unformed block of marble. Her goal is to create a breathtaking statue, a masterpiece that will inspire people for centuries. Now, if she were to take a massive hammer and strike the marble with all her might, what would happen? The block would likely shatter into 1,000 useless pieces. Her grand effort, her burst of motivation would lead to ruin. But that's not what she does. Instead, she picks up a small chisel and a mallet, and she makes one tiny tap. Tap. A tiny, almost insignificant chip of marble falls to the floor. She does it again. Tap and again. Tap. For hours, days, and weeks, this is all she does. From an outsider's perspective, it looks like nothing is happening. The changes are so small, so gradual, that they are nearly invisible. But the sculptor knows a secret. She knows that each of those tiny taps, each small, deliberate action, is building on the one before it. The cumulative effect of thousands upon thousands of these small chips is what slowly but surely reveals the masterpiece hidden within the stone. This is the very essence of what we call atomic habits. Success, true and lasting success, doesn't come from that one giant swing of the hammer. It doesn't come from a single heroic effort made when you feel motivated. It comes from the small, consistent taps. It comes from the tiny actions you repeat, day in and day out, especially on the days you don't feel like it. Many of us believe we need to make monumental changes to see results. We think, I have to study English for 3 hours every single day, or I must exercise for 2 hours at the gym to get healthy. But this all-or-nothing approach often sets us up for failure. Why? Because that kind of intense motivation is like a firework. It burns bright and hot for a short time, but then it quickly fizzles out. What truly works, what builds masterpieces, is consistency. Small habits performed with regularity are like compound interest for your life. The author of Atomic Habits calls them atomic for a reason. An atom, as you know, is a minuscule particle, the fundamental building block of everything. On its own, it seems insignificant. But when atoms combine, they create molecules, objects, and everything in the universe. Atomic habits work in precisely the same way. They are the tiny, fundamental actions that, when combined over time, lead to remarkable, unbelievable results. Let's think about it with a little bit of math. It sounds simple, but the result is shocking. If you were to get just 1% better at something every single day for 1 year, how much better do you think you would be at the end? Most people might guess 365%. But the real answer, because of the power of compounding, is that you would be nearly 37 times better. 37 times. That initial 1% improvement doesn't seem like much. After a week, you've barely noticed a change. After a month, the progress is still small. But over the course of a year, the growth becomes exponential. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It starts small, but as it rolls, it picks up more snow, getting bigger and faster until it becomes an unstoppable force. The same is true for our negative habits. If you get 1% worse each day, by making poor choices, by skipping your practice, the decline is also gradual. You don't notice it at first, but at the end of the year, your skill, your health, your progress has dwindled down to almost nothing. Let me tell you a story about a woman named Clara. Clara had a dream. She wanted to speak English fluently. It was a big, intimidating goal that felt miles away. Every time she thought about fluency, she felt overwhelmed by the sheer size of the task. She tried the big hammer approach. She bought a stack of grammar books and vowed to study for 2 hours every night. It lasted for 4 days. Then she got tired, missed a night, and felt so guilty that she gave up completely. A few months later, she decided to try something different. She decided to focus on a 1% improvement. Her new habit was tiny, almost laughably small. Her goal was to learn just 1 new English word every day, just 1. She wrote it on a Post-it note and stuck it to her coffee machine. Every morning while her coffee was brewing, she would look at the word and say it out loud a few times. That was it. It was so easy that she couldn't say no. After a week, she had learned 7 new words. No big deal. After a month, she had learned 30. Still, she wasn't fluent. But something interesting was happening. The habit was becoming automatic. Soon, learning one word felt so easy that she decided to add another tiny habit. After learning her word, she would try to use it in one sentence. Then a few weeks later, she added one more habit. She would read just one paragraph of a simple English news article online. The changes were minuscule. But day after day, week after week, the sculptor was tapping away at the marble. After 6 months, Clara looked back. She had learned over 180 new words, and more importantly, she had built a consistent daily practice. She was reading short articles with more confidence. She was starting to think of simple sentences in English without translating first. She was not yet fluent, but for the first time, fluency didn't feel like an impossible mountain to climb. It felt inevitable. That, my friends, is the real, breathtaking power of small habits. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you, something that goes against what most of us have been taught our entire lives. Let's talk about goals. Here's a startling idea. Winners and losers in life often have the exact same goals. Think about it. In any sporting event, every single athlete on the field shares the goal of winning the championship. In every classroom, every student has the goal of passing the exam. Every entrepreneur who starts a new business has the goal of being successful. If having the goal was the only thing that mattered, then everyone would be a winner. But we know that's not what happens. The difference, the real secret ingredient that separates those who succeed from those who don't, is not the goal itself. It's the system they follow. So what's the difference between a goal and a system? A goal is the result you want to achieve. It's the finish line. A system, on the other hand, is the process you follow that gets you to that result. It's the daily journey. Let's make this crystal clear with a few examples. A goal would be, I want to speak fluent English. A system would be, every morning at 8 a.m., I will listen to an English podcast for 15 minutes, and every evening before bed, I will write 3 sentences in my English journal. See the difference? The goal is the destination. The system is the vehicle that takes you there. Another example. A goal is, I want to lose 20 pounds. The system is, I will replace sugary drinks with water. I will walk for 30 minutes every day during my lunch break, and I will eat a portion of vegetables with every meal. The fundamental problem with having a goal-only mindset is that it locks your happiness away in a future that you haven't reached yet. You tell yourself a story. I will finally be happy when I achieve fluency, or I will be happy when I get that promotion. This creates a constant feeling of being not there yet, a sense of lack and pressure. But when you fall in love with your system, you can find happiness and satisfaction right now, today. You don't have to wait for the finish line to feel good about yourself. You can feel proud every single day because you are making progress. You are following the process. You are honoring your commitment to yourself. The joy comes from the journey, not just the destination. This leads us to an even more profound idea. The ultimate purpose of your habits is not just to achieve a single result. The real goal is to become the kind of person who can achieve those things. The goal is not simply to learn English. The real goal is to become a lifelong learner, someone who enjoys the process of acquiring knowledge every day. The goal is not just to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner, someone who identifies with the discipline and joy of running regularly. Success is not a one-time event you cross off a list. It is a continuous process of refinement, a system of becoming a slightly better version of yourself every single day. When you focus on your system, you are building an identity. Your habits are the small votes you cast each day for the type of person you want to become. Let's go back to our friend Clara. Her initial goal, speak fluent English, was so big and vague that it just made her feel anxious. It was a constant reminder of how far she had to go. But when she shifted her focus to her system, learning one new word, writing one sentence, reading one paragraph, everything changed. She stopped worrying about the distant mountain peak of fluency. Instead, she found joy in the small, daily victories. She felt a sense of accomplishment every single morning after she completed her tiny routine. She was no longer a person trying to learn English. She was becoming a person who studies English every day. That shift in identity, built brick by brick through her simple system, was the most powerful transformation of all. She started to believe in herself not because she had reached her goal, but because she was consistently showing up for herself, day after day. The system was forging her new identity, and that identity made sticking to the system effortless. So how do we actually build these powerful systems? How do we create good habits that stick and break the bad ones that hold us back? It all comes down to understanding the simple, predictable science of how habits work in our brains. A renowned author on the subject breaks it down into a simple 4-step model that every single habit, good or bad, follows. This cycle is called the habit loop, and the 4 stages are cue, craving, response, and reward. Let's break down each step with a very common modern-day example, the habit of checking your smartphone. First, there's the cue. The cue is a trigger, a piece of information that tells your brain to initiate a behavior. In our example, the cue could be the sound of a notification, the buzz of your phone vibrating in your pocket, or even just seeing your phone sitting on the table. Second, there's the craving. The craving is the motivational force behind every habit. It's not the action itself you crave, but the change in state it delivers. You don't crave the act of looking at your phone. You crave the feeling of connection, the relief from boredom, or the snippet of information that the notification promises. It's the desire to change your internal state. Third, we have the response. The response is the actual habit you perform. It's the action you take. In this case, the response is picking up your phone, unlocking it, and checking the notification. Whether you perform the response depends on how much friction is involved and how motivated you are. And fourth, there's the reward. The reward is the end goal of every habit. It satisfies your craving and teaches your brain which actions are worth remembering in the future. When you check your phone and see a message from a friend, you get a small hit of social validation, a little burst of the brain chemical dopamine. Your brain learns. When the phone buzzes and I check it, I feel good. This positive feedback loop is what makes the habit stick. Cue, craving, response, reward. This cycle runs on autopilot for dozens of our behaviors every single day. Now for the brilliant part. To create a system of good habits, we simply need to reverse engineer this loop. We can make these 4 steps work for us instead of against us. This insight leads to the 4 laws of behavior change, a simple set of rules we can use to build better habits. The first law is make it obvious. The second law, make it attractive. The third law, make it easy. And the fourth law is make it satisfying. Over the next parts of our discussion, we will explore each of these 4 laws in great detail, transforming them from abstract ideas into concrete actions you can take to reshape your life. Let's dive into the first law of behavior change. Make it obvious. A significant portion of our daily actions, especially our bad habits, happen on autopilot. We perform them without any conscious thought. You find yourself scrolling through social media without even remembering picking up your phone. You grab a cookie from the jar as you walk through the kitchen without even feeling hungry. To change these automatic behaviors, the very first step is to become aware of them. The most powerful cues that trigger our habits are often tied to 2 things: time and location. So instead of making a vague promise to yourself like, "I will read more," you need to be specific. You need to create what is called an implementation intention. The formula is simple, but incredibly effective. I will perform behavior at time and location. For example, I will read more becomes, I will read 1 page of my English book at 7 a.m. in my kitchen while my tea is brewing. This statement is powerful because it gives your brain a clear plan. It removes the guesswork. There's no decision to be made in the moment. The time and location act as an unmissable cue. I want you to try this right now. Think of a good habit you want to start. Maybe it's practicing English. Now create your own implementation intention. Say it out loud. I will practice my English speaking for 5 minutes at 6 p.m. at my desk before I make dinner. By stating it clearly, you increase the chances of following through by 2 to 3 times. Another incredibly effective strategy under this first law is something called habit stacking. Your daily life is already filled with dozens of established habits. You wake up, you drink a glass of water, you brush your teeth, you get dressed, you make coffee. You can use these existing habits as a solid foundation to build new ones. The formula for habit stacking is, after current habit, I will do new habit. You are essentially linking your desired new habit to a behavior that is already deeply ingrained in your brain. Let's think of some examples for our English learning journey. After I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will review 5 English vocabulary flashcards. The act of pouring coffee becomes the cue for your vocabulary practice. Or, after I finish brushing my teeth at night, I will write 1 sentence in my English journal. The cue is brushing your teeth. This is far more effective than just hoping you'll remember to practice. You're integrating the new habit into the flow of your existing routine. Beyond setting intentions, you can proactively design your environment for success. This is one of the most powerful strategies for behavior change. We often think that our habits are a product of our motivation or discipline, but in reality, they are often a response to the environment around us. A disciplined environment is far more reliable than disciplined motivation. If you want to make a good habit a bigger part of your life, make the cues for it obvious and visible in your environment. If you want to eat healthier, don't hide the fruit in a drawer in your refrigerator. Put a beautiful bowl of fresh apples and bananas right in the middle of your kitchen counter. If you want to drink more water, don't just hope you'll remember. Fill up a large water bottle first thing in the morning and place it directly on your desk, right next to your computer. Let's think about Clara again. How did she make her English practice obvious? She started by placing her English textbook on her pillow each morning after she made her bed. That way, she couldn't miss it when she went to bed at night. She changed the language on her smartphone to English. Every time she unlocked her phone, she was immersed in the language. She took those little post-it notes with new vocabulary words and stuck them on her bathroom mirror, her refrigerator, and her computer monitor. She was designing an environment where the cues to practice English were everywhere. Now, the inverse of this law is just as powerful for breaking bad habits. Make it invisible. If you are constantly fighting temptation, you will eventually lose because you will run out of willpower. The smarter approach is to cut the bad habit off at the source by removing the cue from your environment. If you find yourself watching too much television, unplug it after each use. Better yet, move the television out of your bedroom entirely. If you waste too much time scrolling on your phone, don't leave it on your desk while you work. Put it in a different room. Let's imagine another character, a man named Mark. Mark had a bad habit of wasting hours on social media, which left him feeling unproductive and anxious. He decided to apply the first law in reverse. He made the cues invisible. First, he deleted all the social media apps from his phone. If he wanted to check them, he had to use his computer, which was more effort. Then he used a website blocker on his computer that would only allow him access for 30 minutes a day. Finally, during his most important work hours, he would put his phone in a box in his closet. By removing the cues, the app icons, the easy access, he didn't have to rely on his limited willpower to resist the temptation. He had created an environment where doing the right thing was the easiest thing. So take a look around you. How can you redesign your world to make the cues for your good habits more obvious and the cues for your bad habits more invisible? Now we move to the second law of behavior change. Make it attractive. Humans are driven by a powerful brain chemical called dopamine. When we anticipate something rewarding, our dopamine levels rise, creating a feeling of desire and motivation. It's this craving, this anticipation of a reward that makes us act. We can use this biological wiring to our advantage to build better habits. The second law tells us that the more attractive a habit is, the more likely we are to perform it. One of the most effective strategies to make your habits more attractive is called temptation bundling. This is a brilliant technique where you pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. You essentially use the thing you crave as a reward for doing the harder, more beneficial habit. For example, let's say you want to watch your favorite show on Netflix. That's the temptation. And you know you need to exercise more regularly. That's the good habit. The temptation bundling rule becomes, I can only watch my favorite Netflix show while I am on the exercise bike. By bundling these two activities, you're not just exercising anymore. You're catching up on your favorite show. The difficult habit becomes instantly more attractive because it's linked to something you strongly desire. You can apply this to almost anything. Let's go back to our English practice. Maybe you need to review your vocabulary list for 15 minutes. That's the need. And you want to scroll through your social media feed. That's the want. The rule becomes, after I review my vocabulary list for 15 minutes, I can then check social media for 10 minutes. This simple link makes the difficult task of studying more appealing because you know it will be immediately followed by something you enjoy. The anticipation of the reward helps you push through the initial resistance. Another powerful force that shapes our habits is our social environment. We are social creatures, and we are heavily influenced by the people around us. We have a deep primal desire to fit in and belong to a tribe. As a result, we tend to adopt the habits of the groups we are a part of. The behaviors that are normal in our culture become the behaviors that are attractive to us. You can use this to your advantage. The key is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. If you want to become better at English, join an online conversation group where everyone is motivated, supportive, and practices regularly. When you are surrounded by people who are all working towards the same goal, that behavior becomes the norm. It becomes attractive to you. If you want to become healthier and more active, start spending more time with people who prioritize fitness. Join a hiking group or a running club. When your friends are all discussing their latest workout or sharing healthy recipes, those behaviors will naturally become more attractive to you. Let's think about Clara's journey again. For a long time, she practiced English alone, but then she found an online community of fellow English learners. They would meet on a video call twice a week just to chat. At first, Clara was very shy and nervous, but she saw how enthusiastic and encouraging everyone was. They celebrated each other's small victories. Soon, she looked forward to these meetings. The group's normal behavior, practicing speaking, making mistakes, and learning together, became her normal behavior. The habit became attractive not just for the learning itself, but for the sense of community and connection it provided. In contrast, let's look at Mark, who wanted to break his habit of eating junk food. Most of his close friends' social activities revolved around going out for pizza and beer. In that environment, eating healthy was difficult and unattractive. He didn't want to be the odd one out, so he made a conscious decision to join a new tribe. He joined a local rock climbing gym. There, the normal behavior was to talk about nutrition, hydration, and physical performance. People brought healthy snacks to share. By immersing himself in this new culture, healthy eating became attractive. It became the norm. Finally, you can make a habit attractive by changing your mindset. The words you use to describe your habits matter. Often we frame our good habits as chores. We say, I have to go to the gym, or I have to practice English. This language implies a burden, an obligation. Try reframing it. Instead of, I have to, say, I get to. I get to move my body and build strength at the gym. I get to expand my mind and connect with new people by practicing English. This subtle shift from a burden to an opportunity can completely change how you feel about a habit. It makes it more attractive because it highlights the benefits, not the effort. Practice this today. Think of a habit you have to do and consciously reframe it as something you get to do. Feel the difference in your motivation. This brings us to the third law of behavior change. Make it easy. We as human beings are fundamentally wired to follow the path of least resistance. We are naturally motivated to do what requires the smallest amount of work. Every action we take requires a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of effort. The more energy a task requires, the less likely we are to do it, especially when our motivation is low. This isn't a sign of laziness, it's just human nature. The secret is not to try and become a person who can do difficult things all the time, but to make the things you want to do as easy as possible. The third law is all about reducing the friction, the difficulty associated with your good habits. Think of friction as anything that stands between you and starting a habit. If you want to go to the gym in the morning, think about all the little steps you have to take. You have to find your gym clothes, your socks, your shoes, fill your water bottle, and pack your gym bag. Each of these small steps is a point of friction. On a morning when you wake up feeling tired, that friction might be enough to convince you to stay in bed. But what if you reduce that friction the night before? Imagine if you laid out your gym clothes, your shoes, your filled water bottle, and your packed bag right by your bed. When you wake up, everything is ready. The friction between you and the habit has been almost completely eliminated. It's now easier to go to the gym than it is to not go. To truly master the art of starting, you can use a powerful strategy called the 2-minute rule. The rule is simple. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to perform. The idea here is to make the habit so easy, so ridiculously simple to start, that you can't possibly say no. Read every night is a big goal that can feel daunting. It becomes read 1 page. Study English for an hour is intimidating. It becomes open my textbook to the right page. Run 3 miles requires a lot of effort. It becomes put on my running shoes and step outside. The purpose of the 2-minute rule is not about the result you achieve in those 2 minutes. The purpose is to master the habit of showing up. The most important part of any new habit is simply getting started. Once you start doing the right thing, it is so much easier to continue doing it. Once you've read that 1 page, you'll often find yourself wanting to read another. Once you've put on your running shoes and stepped outside, you're much more likely to go for a run. You have overcome the initial inertia. Let's check in with Clara. There were many evenings when she felt exhausted after a long day at work. The idea of studying English felt impossible, but her 2-minute rule was simply to open her English notebook. That was it. She could always manage that. And what she found was that on most nights, once the notebook was open in front of her, she would think, well, I might as well learn my 1 new word. And that 1 word would often turn into writing a few sentences, which would sometimes lead to 10 or 15 minutes of focused, enjoyable practice. She mastered the art of showing up, and that made all the difference. Don't start with the perfect, optimized habit. Start with the easiest possible version. Standardize the habit first. Make it consistent before you try to optimize it and make it better. Another way to make habits easy is to automate them. Use technology and one-time decisions to lock in future behavior. For example, if you want to save money, don't rely on your willpower to transfer money to your savings account each month. Automate it. Set up an automatic transfer that moves the money for you on payday. You make the decision once, and the technology does the rest. If you want to practice English, you can set a daily reminder on your phone that pops up at the exact time you plan to practice. You can subscribe to this very podcast, so new lessons are automatically delivered to you. These one-time actions make it easier to follow through in the long run. And of course, the inverse of this law is to increase the friction for your bad habits. Make them difficult to do. Let's return to Mark and his battle with social media distraction. He made it difficult. He logged out of all his accounts after every single use. This meant he had to re-enter his username and password every time, which added a few seconds of friction. It was just enough of a delay to make him question if he really needed to check it. He changed his passwords to be long and complicated and deliberately did not save them in his browser. He even bought a simple kitchen safe with a timer. During his most important work blocks, he would lock his phone inside the box and set the timer for 2 hours. He dramatically increased the friction, and as a result, the bad habit withered away. Look at your own life. How can you reduce the friction for your good habits and increase it for your bad ones? How can you make doing the right thing the easiest thing? And finally, we arrive at the fourth and final law of behavior change. Make it satisfying. For a habit to truly stick, it needs to feel good. We are more likely to repeat a behavior when the experience is satisfying. Here lies a fundamental challenge of modern life. Our brains have evolved over millions of years to prioritize immediate rewards over long-term rewards. The reward for eating a delicious sugary donut is immediate. It tastes fantastic. The cost of that habit, such as gaining weight, is delayed. It happens slowly over weeks and months. The reward for saving money for retirement is delayed by decades. The cost, however, not buying something you want right now, is immediate. This is why so many good habits are hard to maintain. The reward for practicing English today is small and almost invisible. The reward for exercising today is not a perfect body tomorrow. It's just feeling a bit tired and sore. The true rewards are delayed. Therefore, the cardinal rule of behavior change is this: what is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. To make a good habit stick, you must find a way to give yourself an immediate reward. One of the most powerful forms of immediate satisfaction is the feeling of progress. A simple but profoundly effective way to create this feeling is by using a habit tracker. This can be as simple as getting a calendar and putting a big X on every day that you complete your habit. For example, every day you practice English for 15 minutes, you mark an X. Your goal then becomes simple and visual. Don't break the chain of X's. That chain becomes a visual cue of your progress. It's proof that you are showing up. Each time you mark an X, you get a little hit of dopamine, an immediate dose of satisfaction. It feels good to see the chain grow longer. This small, immediate reward helps you stay disciplined on the days when you don't feel motivated. It bridges the gap between your action today and the delayed reward of fluency in the future. This is exactly what Clara did. She bought a large wall calendar and a red marker pen. She placed it right by her bedroom door. Every single day that she completed her small sequence of English habits, she would draw a big, satisfying red X over the date. She quickly fell in love with this simple ritual. The growing chain of red X's was a testament to her consistency. On days when she felt lazy, the thought of leaving an empty white square on her calendar was enough to motivate her to do her 2-minute practice. She didn't want to break the chain. Now, it's important to remember that life is unpredictable. You will eventually miss a day. The key is to embrace the rule: never miss twice. If you forget to do your habit one day, that's okay. It happens to everyone. But never, ever let it happen 2 days in a row. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the beginning of a new bad habit. One missed workout can be an anomaly. 2 missed workouts starts to feel like a new routine of being inactive. The most successful people are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who get back on track as quickly as possible. Don't fall into the all-or-nothing trap of thinking, I missed a day, so I've ruined everything. Just show up the next day. That's it. Let's imagine Clara got sick one day and couldn't do her practice. The old Clara would have felt immense guilt and probably would have given up entirely. But the new Clara, the one focused on her system, simply accepted it. She rested, and the very next day she was back to her routine, drawing that red X on her calendar. She reinforced her identity as a consistent person, someone who gets back up after a stumble. There are other ways to add immediate satisfaction to your habits. You could create a victory log, a small notebook where you write down your small English wins each day. For instance, today I understood a line from a song, or today I used a new word in a sentence. Reading back through this log gives you an immediate sense of accomplishment. Or you could have an accountability partner. This is someone you tell about your habit. At the end of each day, you send them a simple message. Done. The immediate satisfaction comes from being able to report your success to someone else. The desire to avoid the immediate punishment of having to admit you didn't do it can also be a powerful motivator. Wow, what a journey we have been on together today. We've covered so many powerful, practical techniques for transforming your life, not through massive, overwhelming changes, but through the gentle, consistent power of atomic habits. Let's take a moment to do a quick recap of the core lessons for our listeners. First, we learned that small, seemingly insignificant habits compound over time into remarkable, life-changing results. The key is to focus on getting just 1% better every single day. Second, we challenged the traditional idea of goal setting. We learned to forget about distant, intimidating goals and to focus instead on building good systems, the daily processes that will inevitably lead us to success. And third, we explored the 4 simple laws that govern all human behavior. To build a good habit, we must make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. This journey of self-improvement is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. It's about building a new identity, becoming the kind of person who shows up day after day, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it. You are not just learning a language. You are becoming a lifelong learner. You are not just going to the gym. You are becoming an athletic and healthy person. Remember, your habits shape your identity, and in turn, your identity shapes your habits. So, I invite you right now to start today. Don't try to change everything at once. Just choose one small atomic habit that you want to introduce into your life. Make it obvious in your environment. Make it attractive by bundling it with something you enjoy. Make it incredibly easy to start using the 2-minute rule. And finally, make it satisfying by tracking your progress and celebrating your consistency. And then all you have to do is show up, day after day. That is the real, undeniable secret to lasting change. Thank you so much for joining me, Jessica, here on English in Advance. I truly hope this lesson has inspired you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll continue to explore ways to help you not just learn English, but to build a better, more confident life. We'll see you in the next episode. Keep practicing and keep showing up for yourself.